Welcome back to another episode of Lone Star College Football. We've got big news.
Yes,
As
sir.
Arizona
Yes,
is
sir.
heading to the Big 12, and we don't think they're going alone. Logan, how's it going, man?
Man, it has been a crazy past week. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the past year has been building up to right now.
Yeah, I mean, really
And
longer than the past year, right?
yep.
Because it's been 2 years since Texas and Oklahoma said that we're leaving for the SEC, and then about a year later is when USC and UCLA said they're leaving the Pac-12 to go to the Big 10. So we're gonna get into this. We're gonna talk a little bit about it. Before we do,
like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up.
go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you like college football. We're gonna be talking about it all season long, and make sure you ring that bell so you don't miss any episodes. But all right, just get the hard part to hear as a Big 12 fan out of the door. It sounds like the two biggest options of Oregon and Washington are probably not on the table right now. It seems like the
Yeah.
Big 10 is getting kind of in the mix, and they're gonna win out for it.
Yeah, I mean they really weren't seen as an option the past couple of months because everybody knew Washington and Oregon wanted the Big Ten. They've been wanting them since last summer. And the Big Ten is kind of like, nah, we're just going to leave it alone for now. But now, looking at Twitter, there's all kinds of rumors, and everybody's reporting that Washington is in talks with the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is only going to take them with Oregon because they're not going to want an odd number of teams. But also, Washington is starting to demand an extra $10 million on top of their revenue shares for travel cost. Yeah, which that would make more sense if it was the Big 12. I don't know how we would get that together if it was for us, but for the Big 10, it's not that much farther. I mean, it kind of is. Never mind.
My question is, how much are you really in a position to negotiate that when you're in a Pac-9, basically, that is about to be Pac-8, Pac-7, Pac-6? Like, we don't know. Like, it's about to be bad. You're really not in a position to negotiate that. Now, however, I do get it because it's like, okay, we can go from making $19 million in the Pac-12 with this Apple deal, or we can go to another conference and sure, we get $30 million, but 10 of it is going to travel. So I'm basically making the same thing, and it makes your road games harder. But to be fair, it also makes your home games easier because the other team is having to travel all that way to you. So I feel like there is some give and take. I don't see it's almost like, okay, go ahead and stay in the Pac-4, whatever it'll be by the end of the week. And y'all can enjoy bringing in San Diego State, UNLV, and whoever G5 FCS programs you want to bring in. But you're not going to make more money doing that. So it would be better publicity-wise, monetarily, just having a brand of a conference, especially with which I guess in a way it could help you being in a weak Power 5 conference, the way the playoff system is going to roll with if you win your conference and you rank the highest, you get that first round bye.
But that's only for the first 2 years. That's only till 2026. But I want to speak on
how it gets weighted because they might say, "Congratulations, you went 12-0 in a conference of like teams that in the last decade have."
Cal.
Yeah, their overall record is next to nothing. I mean, we'll see.
I mean, I just want to touch on the Apple deal because it was like $19.5 million guaranteed with incentives based on subscribers or the members and subscribers for the Pac-12 network being on Apple TV, where they get $1 per sub, which doesn't sound bad, but at the same time, with how the Pac-9 is looking right now, Pac-8 with Arizona moving over, it doesn't make any sense. Like, nobody's going to want to pay however much more it's going to be, unless you are a die-hard fan. Casuals aren't going to pay to watch Oregon State versus Washington State. They're not going to pay that much to watch Stanford versus Cal because everybody knows Apple is proud of their product and they're going to charge crazily. I mean, look at the iPhones now.
They make the same exact phone and charge you another $1,200 for it every year. So
exactly. So they're not. It's not going to be cheap. The casual fan is not going to want to pay an extra $150 a year to watch Cal versus Stanford in an empty stadium. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see a whole lot of room of improvement. I know that there's different steps as far as incentives. It's like 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, and so on and so forth. But to me, it just doesn't seem like a great way for the schools to earn the extra money based off that incentive. And Apple gave them until today, Friday, to make a choice. It's like a great friend of mine, I'm pretty sure it was Christian over here, told me if you're ever rushed to make a big decision, don't do it.
Just don't do it. Because generally the person rushing you to make the decision is holding all the cards and they're just smiling, waiting for you to screw it up.
And that's exactly what Apple is doing because they know that the teams are desperate because they have no other choice except for take a crappy deal with them, join the Big 12, or go to Mountain West.
Or worse, we don't even know what else happens. What Apple wants is essentially an ACC situation where they can get these teams locked into a crappy deal for a lengthy amount of time, and
I think it was
Apple
6
will rack
years.
up the checks. Yeah, they'll rack up the money in the next 6 years, and all these teams that decide to stick around, which I don't think any of them will, for this specific deal, are going to be stuck like the ACC, where it's like, man, at the time, actually the ACC's deal was at least better because at the time it looked like a good deal, and as we've progressed and the money is just flooded into college football more and more every year. Now it's kind of dated and no longer very good. But this has been my whole thing, and me and Logan, why we have this podcast is we have two completely different views of the Big 12 now. I look at the Big 12 and I sick them, right? After 2023, it's sick them all day long. In 2023, it's going to be sick them except week 4. And I look at it and say, okay, I want Baylor to run this conference. That's what I want.
That'd be great.
And Logan also wants. We share that view. But there's also an aspect where I want a stronger conference. The Big 12 has always been looked down on.
Yep.
And unfortunately, adding these 4 teams, if Utah, Colorado, Arizona State, it does not improve the look of the Big 12. The only reason it improves the look of the Big 12 is because the Pac-12 is dead. So the Big 12 would go from being, in my opinion, when everything was as it was 2 years ago before all this started, the Big 12 was the 5th Power 5 conference, right? It was SEC, Big 10, ACC, or Pac-12, and then the Big 12 was at the bottom, mainly because we were known for what? We were known for having explosive offenses, no defense. If Oklahoma did make the playoffs, they were probably going to lose by 35, and it just is what it is. And then you had teams, in these other divisions, Florida State and Clemson, who are competing. You had teams in the Pac-12 who seems like every few years, an Oregon or a Washington, sometimes even Utah are just having great seasons. USC, of course, we know what they did in the mid-2000s with Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. It seems like this is it's going to make a weaker conference, and it gives Baylor an opportunity, except for Utah.
Yeah,
I think Baylor can compete with all of them, or Colorado. Colorado's still a wild card, but we have no clue what that's going to look like. If it looks like what I think Colorado will probably maintain pretty high regards in the Big 12. And so there's a part of it that it's like, man, I don't know if I want Utah. Maybe just take Colorado, take Arizona, because I think those are both schools that Baylor's going to be able to compete with year in and year out for recruiting and on the field talent, coaching. You leave Utah out, and maybe Baylor's the team that gets to kind of run a conference Obviously, there's teams like Texas Tech that I think are going to be in the mix, and Sonny Dykes over in TCU, he's a good coach. Lance Leipold's doing great things in Kansas. Kansas State's always up there. So all the normal Big 12 teams that could win it, but you're not adding teams that, in my opinion, are actually a step or two above in the sense of a Utah.
Yeah, I mean, here recently, Baylor's been going after a lot of the same recruits that Utah's been going after because we find them in Utah, and then Utah's like, hey, wait a minute. What does Baylor see that we don't? And then they turn around and offer the guy whatever. And we've been doing pretty good against them here recently. But just like looking at the numbers from the past 12 years, Utah and Arizona State have been the biggest out of the four teams that or out of the last two that we might add, which I'm pretty confident we're going to because they don't have another option. But Utah would be really good for keeping the brand going as far as having a team like Texas and Oklahoma where they were one of those big dogs in the Big 12 conference for the past while. But these other schools, like Christian said, Colorado, to me, it kind of depends on how this year goes, especially starting off week 1 against TCU. Arizona, don't know too much about their football as far as this year. Arizona State picked up a pretty good number of transfers that were actually decent. It's just wild cards. It's kind of hard to justify how they're going to look, except for, Utah comes to Baylor week 2. So that's probably going to be one of the biggest games for Big 12 fans this year.
Yeah. I'll say looking at recruiting, Utah last year recruited the best out of all of them. Not out of all the Pac-12, but just these options. They finished 20th. They signed a top 20 class. Baylor sat at 35. USC at 8, Oregon at 9, but I don't think Oregon will come to the Big 12. But Utah out of all these schools leads it. Colorado at 29, but that kind of on the foot of Dion.
Yeah.
Players are committing because of that. They had a 5-star and still only finished 29th. Baylor at 35, Kansas State at 33, Arizona at 40. I'll say Arizona in this cycle, though, does have a 5-star commit, so Arizona State at 44. You never know how recruiting will pick up going to a new conference. It just doesn't seem like the state of Arizona is all that desirable.
We got a pretty good 4-star tight end this past go round from Arizona, right in Phoenix, I believe.
Right. Well, Bijan's from Tucson, Arizona.
True.
Very true. I don't mean like talent can't come from Arizona. Arizona doesn't seem like a place I want to go. I think East Texas.
I get what you're saying.
East Texas is hot. That deserty Arizona, no, thank you. No,
yeah, but at night it's going to be cool. At least it's not going to be humid like it is here.
I wish it was cool here at night, but yeah, I don't know. It's tough, man, because the Big 12 wants to sign or get the best teams it can, but do you really want to create a conference in which, like, if Oregon and Washington wanted to come, you wouldn't say no to them.
No,
but like you were saying earlier, other than an Arizona, I'd probably rather an Oregon State.
Yeah, definitely. Oregon State's been pretty good the past couple of years. Last year they were one of the quieter 10-2 teams. They've been real sneaky. They also picked up DJU from Clemson.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have solid team. They have a solid team. Like one of their running backs just hit the portal probably about 2 hours ago, actually. But other than that, their team was great last year. They were real sneaky about it.
Yeah, they're not recruiting very well at all, though. They didn't have a single. Right now, they don't have a single 4-star.
Happens.
That fits in the Big 12.
Yeah, it does.
Last year they had 2 4-stars last year, a quarterback and a defensive lineman. It just number 53. It fits in the Big 12, but that's not what you want. If you're trying to make your conference better, you don't want these middle of the pack, because we talk about these conferences and, depending on who you talk to, you've got people who will tell you that, well, I think the top of the Big 10 is definitely better than the top of the Big 12, but the bottom of the Big 10 is like way, 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 way lower than the bottom of the Big 12. And I don't see that. I don't see that. I see a bottom, and I see it maybe a little worse. But you got to think, until recently, Kansas was 1-11. 2-10 was like a 3. If they went 3-9, they were throwing parades in Lawrence, Kansas. And so, that's a pretty low bottom. This year, we're gonna have teams. Iowa State, if there's the suspensions, West Virginia, Neil Brown probably won't even be there by the end of the year. You could see a 4-8, 3-9 team in the Big 12, if not maybe more than one of them. And I feel like this adds to the middle of the pack. So that's fine, except Utah. I think this adds to the middle of the pack. And I think in a sense, Colorado, if they pick up where they left off, if Dion isn't the move, then they add to the bottom of the pack. And that's what you don't want. You don't want to add to the bottom. Because Houston already adds to the bottom. UCF, Cincinnati, BYU, they're gonna have their ups and downs, but Houston, I think Houston's adding to the bottom. I don't think Holgerson, however you say his name, I don't know if he'll be there through the end of the year.
I've been hearing a lot about like that too. But
if
I think
one of your 7 teams increase the top, sorry, I'll let you talk. If one of your 8 new teams is the only one that increases the top of your conference, then all you've done is it's like putting perfume on a casket. You're more of a G5 conference that has so many teams that they're going to let you maintain a Power 5 name.
But okay, so Utah, I think, adds to the top. I think Colorado could, but like we said before, it just depends on how they're going to be. But I think the Arizona schools, I think that they could actually come in and compete against the middle of the pack and upset a lot of the upper teams in the Big 12. But speaking about the ones that have already been added, I think BYU has its years. Last year they had a better year than what they should have. UCF has been good here recently. I know that they have that national championship back in 2012. But
since that long ago already?
I think so. But Cincinnati was in the playoffs, and they fell face first onto the concrete after Luke Fickell left and Desmond Ridder was gone. Houston, they had a good year the same year that Cincinnati made the playoffs, but since then, like last year, they lost Tank Dell. He was really good. It's tough. It's tough to know how this conference will look as far as who's competing to make it to the playoffs, who's competing to make it to the Big 12 championship. To me, it's going to be the same teams that you already think is going to be there. So top 4, Tech, K-State, TCU, Baylor, just off the top of my head. Kansas might sneak in there. But then Colorado, maybe. Utah, for sure, if they come. Arizona State, they might have once every 7-8 years. But I really do foresee that Arizona State and Utah are going to be joining tomorrow or by the end of next week, especially depending on how Apple wants to act today with if they're going to give them another media deal or if it's this or nothing.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if they can do that technically, but who knows? Because like we said, Apple is all about their money.
Looking at the win-losses over the last decade for these teams, BYU seems like a pretty good. You can expect 7-5 to 9-3 out of them semi-consistently. UCF, there's 9-5s, there's a 6-4, there's 3 straight years of double digits, and before that is 6-7, 0-12, and then some more better years. I haven't looked at Cincinnati, Houston. The problem is even looking at these though, you also have to take into consideration that they're they're not in a Power 5 conference winning. So, like, all right, you went 13-0 UCF, but what did your schedule look like? And that was 2017, not 12. I was going to say you can't do that long.
I don't think so.
Houston 8-5, 12-2, and then 3-5, 4-8. So it's like, all right, 8-5, 7-5, 9-4, 13-1, 8-5. So they've got a lot of years of being 8-5, but that's 8-5 in a Group of 5 conference, not a Power 5 conference.
I mean, it's in the best Group of 5 conference, but I get what you're saying.
But is the best Group of 5 conference better than the worst Power 5?
No.
It might be better than the Pac-9 here in a couple days.
Well, yeah, it's definitely better than the Pac-8.
And then, Cincinnati, 9-4, 13-1, 9-1, 11-3, 11-2. But then after that, 4-8, 4-8, 7-6. Once again, some of those years sound great, but who are they playing? I mean, like if you're in the American, okay, you're in a tough Group of 5. Who are your non-conference games against? SFA? I mean,
that's a good question. I don't know.
I don't mean to throw shade at the Lumberjacks.
I think UCF had actually a pretty hard non-con in 2017. Not hard, but they actually scheduled some decent Power 5 schools. I'm not sure about Cincinnati and Houston in those years.
Yeah, it's tough. This thing doesn't really want to pull it. I'll have to just Google, like, what year was it that Cincinnati went to the playoffs?
2021. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's whenever we made the Sugar Bowl and beat Ole Miss. But while he's looking at that, I need y'all to go down to the comment section and tell us what y'all think's going to happen. If it already hasn't happened, I'm predicting that all 4 of these top teams right here that you see on our background are going to be in the Big 12 in the next week. Just plain and simple. I think they have until the 15th to join the Big 12. That way they'll be eligible to play in the Big 12 in 2020. But yeah, Colorado's done. Arizona done. If we want to stop at 14, cool. But to me, I would want to bring Arizona with Arizona. That way we have the rivalry. And same with Utah with BYU. Like, we're going to want those extra rivalries because that's just more money and more eyes for the TV deal to help out even more. Because we're bringing in teams that aren't historically great, but we're also bringing in pretty decent-sized markets. Like, we took over the whole state of Arizona and probably New Mexico because New Mexico doesn't have anything. We've taken over all of Utah at this point, if that happens, and we have all of Colorado with Boulder. I mean, I think money-wise, it'll be good for TV deal, but for actually watching the games, it's probably not going to be the funnest experience.
Cincinnati's schedule, 2021. They made the playoffs this year with wins against Miami of Ohio.
Oh, pretty bad.
Not gonna lie, I had you the first half.
Yeah, you got me. You got me good.
Murray State,
Indiana, they're pretty good at basketball.
Notre Dame, which depends on what you want to look at.
I told you Notre Dame was overrated.
Temple. They beat UCF, Navy, Tulane, Tulsa, USF, SMU, East Carolina, Houston, and lost to Alabama. That's not a
you really had me in the first half.
I did. Miami, all right, bro. Yeah, Miami. No. Goodness. This is UCF's schedule for 2017. They went 13-1 that year.
Won the Natty.
Who'd they lose to? It says they went 13-1. Oh, they went 13-0 that year. So this is the year they won the Natty. Let's just look at all the just powerhouse teams that they demolished. Florida International, Maryland, Memphis, Cincinnati, they beat them that year. East Carolina, Navy, Austin P, SMU, Connecticut, Temple, USF, Memphis, and then they did beat Auburn 34-27 in their bowl game, in the Peach Bowl. They beat Auburn. Auburn's a good win. That's it. But it's in a bowl game.
That Austin P, that's the same one that Alabama likes to schedule, like week 10, right?
They schedule teams that don't have a football team, and they say just put one together, throw them on the field, be all right. And then it'll be like 10-3 at half, and then they'll win by 40.
I can't say nothing this year. We got Long Island, so
yeah. It's the exciting thing is no matter what, the Big 12 is not dead because 2 years ago we thought maybe they would.
It's crazy. So, man, these Utah fans have been going stupid on Twitter. Just want to throw this out there that I don't know what happened in the past decade. I mean, I get it. You beat USC twice last year. You won the Pac12 championship 2 years in a row now, I think. But that's only three. That's only like 3 things that's happened. Y'all do not deserve to be in the SEC and Big 10 yet. I hate to break it to y'all. Y'all don't yet. You might later on, but right now, no. You're not that guy.
See, I kind of like Utah, though, because Cam Rising and Jaquindon Jackson both went to the University of Texas and transferred out. I think they actually have Jaquindon Jackson listed as a running back now, but he was a quarterback. Cam Rising, I think he got hurt at the end of the season.
Yeah, he did.
I think they expect him back. I hope he's back. So there's a part of me that's like, you've got –
quit that.
He can come back week 3. He can come back week 3. There's a part of me that's like, all right, you've got 2 former Texas Longhorn quarterbacks. So I kind of like Utah. I like their color scheme too. I think the red and black is dope. Red and white.
See, I did like Utah. And then all this stuff started coming out with their fans, and they're just talking out of a body part that shouldn't be talked out of. And there's something. I'm just going to leave it at
that. If y'all made it this far in the video, we appreciate y'all rocking with us, especially if you're watching college football stuff the first week of August. You're one of the real ones. So make sure that y'all hit that subscribe button, turn that ringer on. We're gonna post a lot during the football season, and if enough of y'all are fans of these other teams and you leave comments, say, hey, talk about Colorado, we'll do it. Got no problem talking about Colorado, Arizona State, Utah, any BYU, all these schools. If enough people are asking for it, we'll sit down and talk all about any. I mean, hey, y'all want us to talk about this Austin P-Pie, however you say that team? We'll talk about them. I'll have to look up all their names, the players, and how to pronounce it. But appreciate y'all rocking with us, at least this far. Logan, you got any closing statements?
I had something that just slipped my mind.
All right.
Dang. Well, hate that.
Collect your thoughts for the next video. Y'all make sure y'all tune in so that y'all hear what Logan was going to. He was going to spit some bars. You just
I got it.
All right.
Guys, look. It's only 29 more days until kickoff for our teams anyways. Now, for week 0, there's a little bit less.
But it's 31 days.
No, it was 30 yesterday. And by the time this is posted and they're seeing it, it'll be 29. So, look. Check me out. Go ahead, subscribe. If y'all want us to talk about y'all's teams, we can throw in some pre-games and post-game shows here and there with them. But just know that if you're a Baylor, Texas fan, or any Big 12 fan, really, we're going to be having pre- and post-game shows every week at the very least. Very least. And that's if it's just something.
And Lone Star Locks.
Off the hinges goes off. And Lone Star Locks. If you're
There's like 5 episodes a week, no matter what.
Exactly. If you're a betting man and you need somebody to kind of help you out there, I'm right here.
Don't listen to me.
I am right here.
Yeah, don't listen to me.
See, we can't do it because we're in the state of Texas, obviously. But, I mean, don't know how y'all's laws are over there in the other states. But go ahead, man. Just come on. I can win you some money. I was positive pretty well last year if I could have put money on it. But it's all good.
Yeah, I was not. We're hoping for a much better year this year. Okay, guys? We're hoping. I'm just going to make the bet on every single game. Hope for the best. Bold strategy. Listen, guys. I'm not gonna read this whole thing about Rollo Insurance. If y'all watched the video this long, surely not taking the time to read that bar. One day we might do a giveaway. We might just have all y'all call him, get a quote, and do a giveaway on somebody who does. So keep that in mind. Appreciate y'all rocking with us. Until next time.
Sickle.